So the Packers reportedly brought in Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker for one of their pre-draft visits. So I went back and watched his highest graded game from PFF, his highest graded overall, but then also his highest graded passing game. His highest graded game was against Florida, primarily because he ran the ball exceptionally in that game. His highest passing game was against Alabama, which again, two quality opponents at the time. Florida was ranked in the top 10, and at the time of the Alabama game, it was Tennessee was number 6 and Alabama was number 3. So highly competitive games, obviously, and then good SEC rivalries in there as well. So went back and watched those games, and there's a few things I kind of took away from it. So one, he's pretty decently decisive with the ball. He does well. You'll look at his stats across the board, and he protects the ball well. He didn't have any turnovers that I saw in either of those games. He had a long stretch where he didn't throw an interception. So that's a great thing to have if you're looking at a potential backup quarterback for Jordan Love. If he's somebody that's going to protect the ball, backup quarterback, you don't want them to lose you games. They're not going to necessarily win you games, but you don't want them to outright lose you games because they can't take care of the ball. Another thing I noticed was he has a few mishaps here and there with accuracy. So a couple deep balls that were underthrown, a few spots on some crossing patterns where he missed the mark, threw it behind the receiver a little bit. But minor little things like that. If you take a look at his throwing motion here too, it's not particularly efficient. So that's something that he could potentially, with some coaching, similar to how Tom Clements helped Aaron Rodgers really redesign from the Jeff Tedford throwing motion to his quicker release now, and he's got one of the quickest releases in NFL history. So that's something that if they did draft Hendon Hooker, we could potentially see as a benefit of the coaching of Tom Clements. So those are a few things. He had some pretty good receiver talent, as many people are looking for like a Jalen Hyatt or even a Cedric Tillman, potentially as draft targets for the Packers as well. But overall, for the season, his PFF grade was 90.8. You see through the years that he played, he progressively got better. The first few years that he played, he was at Virginia Tech, then he transitioned over to Tennessee, and he progressively got better once he was there. One thing that, Packers fans and people who follow the Packers draft a little bit might see and be a bit of a red flag is that he is 25 already. He's a little bit older for a draft prospect, which Green Bay doesn't always go in for. Last year we saw that they picked Devontae Wyatt, who is a little bit above their age threshold in the first round, so that doesn't entirely eliminate Hendon Hooker. On top of that, it would be a little bit funny if you're drafting a rookie backup quarterback who is older than your starting quarterback. But there's a maturity that comes along with that. And then, as I mentioned, his ability to protect the football, that's a good quality. So I think there's a decent chance that if, he drops a little bit, they might target him just for that as a backup quality that they'd have. And then he's got some decent upside there as well. There's some things within his game that can continue to progress and grow. As I mentioned, that Florida game, he ran exceptionally. He is a pretty good dynamic running threat as a quarterback. Very agile. Did a lot of read option, like quarterback keeper type deals. So that's something that is another element to his game that could be brought to the NFL. When you look at some of his advanced stats, his adjusted completion percentage was 75.9%, which is very good. Turnover-worthy play rate was 1.1%, which that's exceptional. And then some of his highest grades as a passer came in the deep game. So he's not afraid to stretch the ball down the field. But that also helps when you've got dynamic receivers that can make plays down the field, like Cedric Tillman or Jalen Hyatt. Let's take a look at some of the clips of, some of those games that I said I went back and watched. Hooker is best when he's able to drop back, hit that back foot, and then release the ball in rhythm. He's got a good physical size and all the tools to be an outstanding quarterback. And he's outstanding throwing the ball down the field, even though sometimes he leaves the ball a little short or doesn't lead the receiver as much as you'd like. He's mobile enough to break the pocket, though most of the time he's looking to run rather than keeping his eyes downfield looking for passing options.
And Hooker just sees what he's got in front of him, just enough blocking, the wide receivers stay active. This guy's some athlete, some quarterback.
And as I previously stated, he occasionally leaves the ball a little behind on some of his throws, showing a little bit of inaccuracy here and there. It's also kind of tough to measure exactly where we might see him at because he is rehabbing an ACL injury that he suffered late in the season, so we don't have the measurables from the combine or pro day workouts like we do for the other quarterback prospects. PFF currently has him projected for the 3rd round, but there's been recent draft buzz putting him as high as the 1st. So leave me a comment down below and see how high would you be willing to take him if you're the Packers.